Fun with failure.
So this actually happened today, but it also happened pretty consistently for the past 3 years. But I found out today. This mistake in question is the fact that I tell way too many racist jokes. So I would like to say that I never once seen one race as being superior to another, nor have I ever felt any prejudice toward another race. However, I've always enjoyed dark humor, and that includes racist jokes, and I find racism itself is pretty funny. Now, normally when I tell a blatant racist joke, people get that look on their face, the one where they're laughing really hard on the inside, but try not to show it because they feel awful about it. So needless to say, I tell these types of jokes a lot, and never thought anything of it. This brings me to today. At lunch when my friends called me racist, I said, "Nah man, I'm not racist." Because again, I've never thought one race was superior to another. Then everyone at the table said, "Yes, you are racist." So then I went to a different table and asked one person if they thought I was racist. The entire table said yes. Then the rest of the day I went around asking people if they think I'm racist. If I were to give a rough guess on how many people said yes, I'd say it was about every single one of them, give or take none, because it was all of them. So I looked up the definition of racist, and lo and behold, I am most definitely racist. Apparently, in order to be racist, you don't actually have to think or feel racist, you only have to show it. Surprisingly, this happened today. Okay, so background. I'm in India for the last bit of summer vacation, and I'm about to leave for home, but we're stopping off in Dubai, which is very exciting for me. As one would expect, India is very hot, especially for a guy used to milder weather, which means I'm constantly thirsty. I dehydrate easily. Now to the mistake. So I've just woken up and I'm now eating breakfast, with me being the only person at the table, and the only person not taking a shower at the time. Given that I haven't had water since I went to sleep, I'm super thirsty. So in India, water either has to be boiled or put through filtration systems to be potable, which means that having super hot boiling water randomly lying around in unmarked containers is totally normal. After calling for a relative to get water and getting no response, I, not knowing where the purified water tap is, decided to grab an unmarked metal bottle of water. I touched the bottle to make sure it wasn't super hot or anything, and it's absolutely fine. At this point I went to open it, noting that the cap was strangely warm. It probably just got washed, I thought. I picked it up and began to chug. First mistake. The water was so hot that I didn't feel anything at first. Then the waves of pain started flooding in. Keep in mind, I've just chugged it, so my mouth and throat are filled with boiling water. Instinctively, I spit it out. Second mistake. Not only does the water make contact with my clothes, burning my mosquito bite covered legs, it also splashes all over the floor. Now that's not quite relevant yet. I scream, as one naturally would when given that my mouth, tongue, and throat have been seared medium rare. I whirl around looking for any source of preferably safe cold water. Third mistake. So in India, most dining rooms tend to have a faucet out in the open, which was almost the case here. In this specific house, the faucet was separated from the dining room by a single doorway, in this case a raised doorway about an inch off the ground. I see the faucet and I sprint for it, slipping on the previously spilled water, and I slam my right foot into the wooden raised part of the doorway, with such force that it left a dent and tripping me. I face planted into the hard tile floor, chipping one of my front teeth. At this point I'm kinda just numb from all the pain, and semi-lost consciousness. At this point my toe is pretty badly bruised and my toe is jammed. My tooth has a minor chip, and my mouth and throat feel like I've been deep-throating a ghost pepper. To make things worse, my sense of taste is completely gone. So I probably won't be able to properly experience Nusret in Dubai. When I come home after school, I walk in the house to be hit with the strongest smell of smoke. I turn the corner to see my mom and sister fanning out the microwave. My sister put noodles in the microwave without the water. The top of the noodles are black and smell like butt and fire. So I take it outside. 2 hours later, it still reeks horribly. We've tried fanning it out and turning on anything with a motor in the house. The inside of the microwave has been thoroughly cleaned with citrus juice, but the smell prevails. Suddenly, I remember this thing I read about realtors online. I've heard that they put caps of vanilla in an oven at low temperatures, and it makes the house smell like a cake. It doesn't take much, I figure. This microwave smells like a smoker's gray areas. So I add a little extra, maybe not a little, maybe like a few tablespoons. I set it in the microwave and I put it on high for 30 seconds. It starts bubbling and steaming and wow, the smell is fading away. The clock stops and I get an idea. Let's steam the vanilla and keep the microwave door closed. Just like steaming mucus out of your nose in a hot shower. So I add 30 more seconds. I watch it spin, then boom! The glass bowl leaps to the top of the microwave, and tablespoons of delicious vanilla napalm spray on the walls. I leapt back and I prayed that it didn't break the glass bowl in it. In the end, I cleaned it out and it still smells like butt, but with a hint of delicious vanilla. Unlike most TIFUs, this actually just happened. It is around 3:30 a.m. where I live. Just as I'm about to enjoy a nice YouTube binge watch before falling asleep, I notice a black spot on my ceiling. Being someone who has white walls and white ceilings, this could only mean one of two things. Either I knocked something into my ceiling or, well, it was the second thing. A fracking spider. Naturally, of all places in my room to chill, it decides that right above my bed is the best. Well, there goes any chance of me getting any sleep tonight. Normally staying up all night would be alright, but seeing that I actually had to show up at work tomorrow, that wasn't an option. After staring at it and hope it would finally leave after deciding my collection of vinyls and other hipster crap is too much for him. Apparently he enjoys the Decemberist and Starbucks coffee as much as I do. Finally, I decided I needed to take action. I grab an old guitar catalog on my bookshelf and decide this is the perfect weapon. Since I have fairly high ceilings, the only way to go in for the kill is to be standing on my bed. Just as I was about to go all SEAL Team 6 on the spider, I realized I'm not the most graceful person, and there's a good chance I might manage to hurt myself. In the end, I decided I need to be my own hero. I take one giant step for mankind onto the bed and boom, I smashed the spider. And just as I'm moving the book, it made one last leap of faith toward me. As you can imagine, I freaked out. And I fell off the bed, landing perfectly on the side of my foot, and then twisting and smashing my knee into the metal bed frame. So here I sat on the floor trying to hold back tears, as I try to reassure myself that I did not just break my foot. Thankfully I decided I'm alright, until the adrenaline starts to wear off, and I realize my foot is throbbing like hell. As I hold back tears, I realize I just destroyed what little dignity I had left, and I managed to just make my fear of spiders worse by adding a newfound fear of beds. I'm finally past this enough to write about it. I've been rattled for the past few days, and I don't rattle easily. This will be long, and I apologize in advance. Here's a preface. I'm renovating an old brownstone in Brooklyn. These are row houses, all connected to a common, and old as the city sewer system. Earlier this week, I decided to try to shore up the vertical section that had sagged, and broken some retention straps that reinforced it. Luckily, this was on a branch of plumbing that we weren't using, but still. I'd be bringing in a plumber to fix it later, but this, I felt, couldn't wait, as it was an absurdly large cast iron stack, weighing hundreds of pounds. It's an 8-inch pipe out to the street, which is about double what is really needed for residential. So let's paint the scene. I'm wearing a cheapo LED headlight, which is at best pretty dim. 20 to 30 lumens tops. The basement is very dark and shadowy, with a few bulbs off in the main part of the basement, and that's it. This pipe is coming down from several floors above, and it is the darkest corner of the basement. I've been noticing some water bugs, a polite name for the largest flat American cockroach that often inhabits basements. It's different from the brown German cockroach that will invade your cabinets, but no less gross. Now, let's keep things in context. Some to me at this point was more than one, alive, at a time. So several is a more accurate description. Nothing infestation level, just several, a few, a handful. Given the age of the house and how long it's been empty, it's not unexpected. I hate bugs, by the way. I've broken bones, had wounds deep enough to require multiple layers of stitches. I was hit with a gut-wrenching realization that human flesh smells like hot dog when cooked by unknowingly grabbing a fresh welded piece of metal. I'd rather go through any of that again than have a bug of significant size crawl across me. Ugh. My irrational fear here will maybe explain some of the poor decision making that you're about to read. So anyway, as I start attaching a retainer strap to the lowest portion of the cast iron pipe stack, I hear it. I'm not aware of what I am hearing, but I'm hearing something. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm crouched inches away from the stack, about to stand up so I can bear hug this thing into place and relieve the strain it's been putting on the supporting brace and other straps. Have you ever played a horror video game where you have a flashlight as your main or only light source? How you have to scan slowly with only a small field of vision? That's my lighting situation down here in this corner. There I am, face about a foot away from this pipe with a small cone of light. As I raise my head upward, revealing a small portion of the pipe at a time, something is off about what I'm seeing. My brain just isn't putting it together. So I adjust my headlamp a bit and lean in a bit closer, looking up along the length of the pipe, pitch black becoming suddenly illuminated in a slow reveal as I sweep my sight and light across. That's when I realize I'm seeing shadows. Time itself slows. Shadows of antennae. Hundreds of pair of dancing, twitching antennae. Exaggerated both by the size and apparent movement against the wall behind the pipe by the stark directional light of the headlamp LED. It also occurs to me what I've been hearing. That white noise, barely audible, the rustling of leaves, etc. That was the sound of these bugs. What was actually just a few seconds stretched on for me until I actually felt myself snap out of it. And I jump out and backwards away from the small corner of hell. I'm not okay at this point. I slowly withdraw to regroup. I hate bugs. I'll locate a big jug of bug spray. Note that it's only intended to keep yard bugs out of the house. I locate my brightest flashlights. I prepare for battle. Still for what I have to do, I head back down to reevaluate the situation. Okay, there weren't really hundreds of pairs of antennae, just a few dozen. The bugs were clearly just hiding on the back, dark side of the pipe because I invaded their space with my LED light. Realistically, how many can fit behind there? And they weren't that big, maybe 1 to 1.5 inches long or so. I can do this. The bug spray is just a hand sprayer attached to a gallon or so jug. I give it a squeeze and aim it in the general direction of the back of the pipe. I still need to wrestle this thing in place, so I'm hoping to scatter those few dozen bugs so I may continue the repair. I'm still not prepared, clearly, but I had no idea yet. So anyway, I spray a single shot, then it hits. The apocalypse. With a few thousand lumens of light on this pipe now, the bugs with nowhere to go to hide, with something spraying an irritating chemical on them, they erupt from behind the pipe. They start dropping down to the floor. The rustling, which was barely audible earlier, is now frantic. My fear response is lighting up. As I start squeezing that spray trigger with more urgency, I have only one thought. What have I done? I could have, and I should have walked away. Gotten something stronger to deal with this? Hired someone qualified? But no. I am there spraying the crap out of these bugs with something that only barely seems to be killing them. Slowly, then I see it. As I work my way around the side of the pipe, with all the extra light I've brought, from a different angle I can see that the pipe had developed a large gaping crack running alongside the length of the pipe. It's wide enough to fit a hand flat through it. I'm not simply fighting a few dozen bugs hanging out on the backside of a pipe. I just declared war on an unholy army of direct from the New York City sewer system roach beast. So I spray a few shots directly into the hole. So hey, remember that scene from The Mummy with Brendan Fraser? When the scarab swarmed in an ocean-like wave that devoured people? This was kinda like that. The previous response that I triggered was a puny apocalypse. Very tiny indeed. Bugs? Nah. Angry roach beasts from the 7th layer of hell. All spawning out from inside of this pipe at this point. They're forcefully ejecting themselves from the sewer main pipe, and due to the inconvenience of being cramped in quarters with nowhere to go, they're all around me, under me, on me. I'm spraying and stomping and spraying and stomping. I am sweating like crazy. I hear my own heartbeat in my ears. My fight or flight response is at full throttle. I may have been screaming. I can imagine some combination of terror screams and war cries. I was alone, so this was completely unverified. But let's assume I was screaming and spraying and stomping. My forearms were burning from squeezing that dang trigger by now, and I was switching hands as I get tired. My breathing is heavy and I'm wearing down. So, remember Game of Thrones? The epic battle scene at the wall from a few seasons back? The war drums? The battle horn? When the wildlings brought their giant and woolly mammoths? Yep. So my barely effective poison juice that I've been spraying in and around the pipe must have worked its way down to an as yet unknown layer of the netherworld, which brought forth a giant desperate trying to escape that pipe of mild discomfort. Now my friends down south will tell me that 2.5, maybe 3-inch bug is pretty normal, but not to this city boy they ain't. Watching these things emerge from the pipe as you're fighting a war to save humanity itself is pretty dang demoralizing. I'm ready to give up. Let them take me. I imagine myself being slowly devoured by these giant bug beasts. It's at this point that my logical brain takes over from my emotional one, and I start grabbing newspaper, rags, and anything else I can find, and I start stuffing the crack. I stem the tide of bugs coming out of the pipe and concentrate on the ones that are now wandering aimlessly, slowly across the floor. More stomping and spraying, but less screaming. The spray was working, eventually. It wasn't strong enough to kill them instantly, but it did kill. This will become a source of regret, but I'll explain in a moment. With the adrenaline rush gone, and dying roaches carpeting my basement, I finally had enough presence of mind to ask myself, what the hell am I even doing? I grab some duct tape, a big piece of cardboard, and I hastily start taping it around the pipe crack. I pour the remaining part of the gallon directly into the pipe and close it up, and then I go upstairs. I didn't talk for the rest of the night. My wife, when she came home, knew something was wrong, but didn't prod too much and let me be. I was rattled beyond measure. Just typing this out makes my skin crawl all over again. She laughed the hardest she had in a long time when I told her the story the next day, but I wasn't totally okay for a day or two. So fast forward a little, the gift that keeps on giving. Seems like this product is a slow, long-lasting killer. 4 days out now and I'm still finding dead and dying cockroaches. I clean them up, come back later, find more, repeat. The rate is slowing down. Instead of a dozen every few hours, we're down to about 6 to 8 emerging overnight. I haven't called anyone to replace the main yet, because now I see the severity of the crack. That changes the way I'll need to approach it. I'll have to open up some wall upstairs, and I'm betting the entire stack will be replaced, roof to basement. I've decided instead to enjoy my long 4th of July weekend, and mentally recover after revisiting. Thank you for reading.